You're listening to Empress Conversations podcast with your host, Maggie Peary. Conversations with Maggie. Yeah, yeah. Join us next time on the next episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. To learn more about guests or for more information on working with Maggie, go to www.empressconversationswithmaggie.com/get-started.
Welcome to another episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. Today, my guest is Miss Delmar Johnson, and her business is HR Brain for Hire. Miss Delmar, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy to be here.
Likewise. Thank you so much for being here today. Tell us how you got started in the HR industry before we get into the whole your business and how you niche down. But tell us how you got started, your love for human relations, and there had to be a passion for you to go this direction.
Well, interestingly, my HR journey started when I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah. My determination of where I was going to make my mark in the marketplace, in the world, as you go off to college and everything and create your life. Yes. I was 17 years old, a senior in high school. And, every senior teacher asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? We've always had those questions before growing up. It's just normal, natural. And my teacher asked me, so, Delmar, I know you're going to college. What do you want to be? And I said, you know what, I'm going to be in human resources. I said, I think I want to help people. I want to figure out what companies are doing. I said it kind of a matter-of-factly. And she's like, oh, okay, you sound pretty sure about that. I'm like, about as sure as I can be, at 17 years old. Right. But I got exposed to it because I was in part of a vocational program inside of the high school that talked about companies and how to, function and be an employee in companies and things of that nature. So once I went to our college, our college fair, trying to figure out what college I'm going to and things of that nature, came across, which is now my alma mater, Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. They had a program that talked about office management, talked about human resources and, working in companies and things of that nature. So that was my forte, if you will, my first step into HR. But I made the decision as a senior in high school, not really understanding what fully human resources were. Just so much at 17 or 18, we always think we know a lot, but not necessarily. At 17. But because I had that exposure within the high school in that program, then I wasn't too unfamiliar with it, but I didn't know all the nuances of human resources, but I knew that it triggered something in me. So it's basically part of my DNA now.
That's
so
fantastic.
That's how I got started. That's where the decision came. And then, of course, once in school, you get your training and education, and then it comes into more of, more into the forefront and understanding of what human resources encompassed. So, but that's really where it got started when I was 17 and a senior in high school.
Wow. They really made an impact on you for you to just be like, this is it for me. This is the path I'm going to follow. And you pulled through. That's fantastic. So talk to us about after you went through your career in education, now you're an adult out there in the workforce. What was that path like to finally now transition from going into, actually owning your own business and HR, being an HR brain for hire? I love that name.
Thank you. Yes, had a great corporate run, worked for some great companies, really enjoyed the corporate run. So I had no complaints, but then life kicked in, how life will life, as they say now, life is lifing. And back in 2010, I lost everything. So I had gone through a devastating financial breakdown, loss of everything, opportunities, jobs, all the things, right? And I had to figure out, okay, what just happened? It was one of those moments. What just happened? Educated. I was in my 40s when I lost everything. So it's like I'm at a point where I had, the corporate experience, life experience, obviously, traveled and all those kind of things. But made probably some wrong turns, not the greatest decisions sometimes. And I found myself losing everything: a place to live, car, money. Went home after 12 years of not living in the state of Tennessee. I always went back home to visit, obviously, but I hadn't lived in the state of Tennessee about 12 years at that time, living in other cities. And I went home literally with nothing but the clothes on my back.
Wow.
So that's what began to, unveil, okay, how do I put my life back together? And in the midst of putting my life back together, I also became a caregiver. So while I'm piecing my life back together, I'm supporting my mother. I came home in February of 2010, exactly 12 years to the month that I had left.
Wow.
February. In March, my mother had open heart surgery, and that began my journey of caregiving. While I was trying to piece my life back together, I was moved into the position to help her maintain hers. So it was a journey. It was a very difficult journey, very, very difficult journey. And just part of my life story, part of the life journey. And at that time I had to figure out, okay, well, if I'm going to be a caregiver, and I had sisters, so let me put that in there. Had sisters, but I wound up being the primary. I took on that role. How was I going to piece my life back together while helping my mom, while helping my mother? And I said, well, Lord, I don't know about having a 9-to-5 and doing this. And how do I, rebuild my life while doing this, helping her sustain hers? So it was very difficult. But I had an idea one day. I began working again, probably a few months after I came back to Memphis in 2010, just to try to get reacclimated back into my home city and stuff. I hadn't lived or worked there in 12 years. So it's like, okay, so, went on a contract job. And one day I had a conversation with someone I had recruited in. It was a supervisor because they brought me in to be a recruiter. And he said, you ought to do this for other businesses that don't know how to do it. I don't know why that came out of his mouth. He was just thanking me for, bringing him through the process, hiring him and all those kind of things. And we was leaving for the day. He was coming in, I was leaving for the day. And he made a comment similar to that. I'm like, I'm not sure why he said that. But by the time I got home, all kind of things started stirring in my head. It's like, wow, it's like that could be a way for me to kind of rebuild my life. Like I said, I was in a very, very hard season. I didn't know which way was up at some point. I didn't know which way was up the first couple of years. But I like, maybe interesting. And I think within that same day or within that same week, because it's been a long time now, the name HR Brain for Hire came up in my spirit. And I've had it ever since. I registered the name in October of 2010. Had my first client in February 2011.
Wow, that's just confirmation. One thing for sure, Delmar, you could write the book on Life Was Lifing, because that was a lot. That was a lot in terms of that transition. But then also it brought you to where you are today, because sometimes in life we meet that person or someone says something that the light bulb goes off and you're like, aha. There's something there, and you took action on it, and boom, that first client. There's nothing like getting money from that first client. That's just really solidifies your journey, and you're doing the right thing. So after your first client comes along, what now really like fuels you to get that second, 50th, 100th, and so on and so on? What fueled you to keep going? What was your plan?
Well, interestingly enough, now, let's keep in mind, I'm still in the midst of caregiving. My caregiving journey lasted 10 years. Lasted 10 years. And so I'm in the middle of that while I'm trying to do this. So there was a lot of bumps and bruises. There was a lot of valley moments, more than there ever was mountain moments. Trying to figure out, okay, well, maybe I didn't hear right. Am I even supposed to be doing this? Okay, let me just figure out how to get a job again. So it was a lot of that the first few years, because I didn't know necessarily how to make it work. That first client entrusted me. We're still friends to this day. She lives in Atlanta.
Oh, good.
We're still friends to this day. And she took a chance on me and actually helped me, with some things and everything, because she was already an entrepreneur. Helped me with some things, think about it. But for those first couple of years, those first few years, I was just trying to figure out if I was still going to be doing it, because nobody really understood the concept of HR in the entrepreneur world, as far as an HR consultant is going to help an entrepreneur figure out how to put the foundation in their business, how to hire employees or contractors or interns and things. It was a foreign concept. I consider myself a pioneer, if I may be so bold to say that, because I didn't have anybody that could mentor me. I didn't have a blueprint. I was like, okay, is anybody else talking to entrepreneurs and small business owners about how important it is to have these HR practices in the foundation of their business so they have sustainability? I had no one to be mentored by, and I had no blueprint at the time. This was 2011. It seems like it was a lifetime ago. It's been 12 years, 20 and a half years. Yeah. So I had no blueprint. And I really began to get more serious about it around 2014. So it was like 3 years of just trying to figure it out. It's like, what am I doing? Nobody's listening. Let me go do what I need to do. Let me get these temporary jobs, these contract jobs on the way, and just figure it out. So around 2014, I kind of more so locked in, and have never gone back. Actually, have never looked back, even in all the valley moments I've had, in the midst of the mountain moments too. So it really has, it toughened me. It strengthened me. It gave me a different perspective on life, not just business, but life as well, and what can happen when you persevere through the moments where you think it's like, okay, wait a minute, I need to pay rent, I need to eat, I need to, all the things. A lot of times entrepreneurs don't talk about it. It's like, talk about those moments where you didn't know if your lights were going to stay on, or if the repo man was coming, or if you was getting an eviction notice and all those kind of things. But I don't like to just do the glamour thing. Entrepreneurship is not glamorous.
It is not at all.
It's not glamorous. I mean, it can be fulfilling. It can be fulfilling. It can, create legacy for you and your family, and, and those kind of things. So it has great things to it, but it's not glamorous.
Not at all.
Glamorous as social media will have you think it. But like I say, it can be rewarding. It makes you think. It makes you be more creative. It allows you to be innovative. It allows you to connect with other like-minded individuals who are, going through the journey and trying to build that legacy for their family. So my HR Brain for Hire has been a roller coaster, but I've had the privilege, that's what I call it too. I've had the privilege to provide solutions and services for many people, individuals, solopreneurs, startups, small and mid-sized businesses, and just really be able to educate people about the dynamics of HR, which is really called people operations now. It evolves, right? But I always say HR and people operations so people understand I'm talking about the tactile things as well as the people side of things. Because without the people, how do we elevate? How do we grow? How do we extend? So that's kind of like the quick version, the quick version of HR Brain for Hire. And it's still, we're still evolving. I'm shifting now in, niching down to the industries that we want to specifically serve going forward, so it goes through evolution when you've been around that long.
Delmar, you touched upon this very lightly. Let's talk a little bit more about who your ideal client is. Who do you work with? What type of organizations, people do you work with specifically so that our listeners can know how to access your services?
My ideal client is a small business owner who is already established, has a team, but still needs that foundation and that structure in place for long-term sustainability. And someone with an established business, with a more established small and mid-sized business, they're able to be in a position to have a budget to be able to infuse that budget and that cash into actually sustaining the foundation that they have. So being able to help them with performance management plans, being able to help them with setting up their SOPs, getting their how-tos out of their head, being able to set up, leadership training for them as a leader, and then also for their team, because you want to have your team developed as well. So the aspects of HR and people management is what I like to offer those more established business owners. That's really where I'm refocusing our attention to. I still love my startups. I still, I have digital products for startups. I have things for startups that, they won't be left out. But that is my focus. And particularly, we are shifting to particular industries for the construction industry.
Oh, wow.
For the construction industry as well as nonprofits. So we're narrowing down who we really want to focus toward. It doesn't dismiss other people who may ask for our services, but we really want to niche down and target some areas and industries who a lot of times forfeit human resources and people management best practices. And I have found that with some of my construction clients, as well as former nonprofits clients, that is statistically true. It's like a lot of times not necessarily, I don't know if forfeit is the right word, but they deal with a lot of compliance circumstances or situations or issues, I should say, compliance issues, policies, guidelines and things of that nature, because, they do what they do. Nonprofits do what they do. They serve the community. They try to make an impact. Construction companies are building our buildings, our infrastructure, and things of that nature. They have, great teams, non-union and union employees, but they're not always dialed in on the human resources pieces that's going to help them with their sustainability.
Delmar, let's kind of change a direction here a little bit. Tell our listening audience ways that they can find you online, in person, contact. Please share your information and how people can get in touch with you.
Most definitely. I'm very easy to find, as Deion Sanders says. Ain't hard to find. But they can find me. Obviously, they can go to my website, hrbrainforhire.com, and reach out to me there. But on social media, they can find me under my name, Delmar Johnson. They just plug in Delmar Johnson. On Instagram, you can pull me up as Delmar Johnson, but our avatar is attached to it. So HR Brain for Hire on IG. But if you pull me up by my name on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram, you will find me.
Thank you for that. Besides all of these wonderful accolades and things that you have done, which is, you are a wealth of information. I would love our audience to know that you are an author and have penned a couple of books here. You've also attained the Amazon bestsellers book, HR is Sexy, The Truth About Human Resources and Why It's Necessary for Your Business. Yeah. And then you have another book as well. But talk to us a little bit about how HR is sexy.
HR is sexy, and that's a very provocative title, and it was done on purpose. It's like, what do you mean HR is sexy? HR is sexy because when you have those pieces in place, when you have your people management best practices in place, when you have your performance management plans in place for to measure your employees' performance, when you have your SOPs, get those things out of your head so people understand how you run your business. When you have the strategy in place for how HR needs to look in your business, how you're going to hire, what's coming down the pipe, that blueprint for your HR, it becomes sexy because now you are in the position of power. All right, you're in a position of confidence because you have those pieces in place versus, calling me or another HR consultant with your hair on fire. Yeah. So HR is sexy, and that's why the subtitle is like it is too. It's really the truth about human resources and why it's necessary for your business. But HR is sexy because of that. When you have that foundation in place and you have intentionally created the blueprint and mapped it out about what that looks like in your business, depending on the stages of your business, then it becomes sexy. It's like, wow, you have more confidence, you have more courage in the things that you're doing and more understanding in why you're making the decisions when it comes to the people that you're hiring and how you're hiring and what that looks like once they become part of, your team, part of your vision and everything to carry that out. So that's why HR is sexy.
I love that it's an attention-grabbing name, but initially I was like, the word sexy and HR together, you're thinking somebody's getting written up, somebody is getting fired, somebody did something not good. I mean, it's just all kinds of things go to your head. And in today's world of cancel culture, and I won't name a particular artist who kind of got herself in a little bit of hot water here, more of a PR issue, but then also HR, because there were some allegations that came out against her. Again, I'm not mentioning any names here, but most people will be able to put two and two together. Basically, what happened, or some allegations were made against this very popular artist who was all kinds of allegations even at her level. The fact that her team, probably they're doing some things, but already Hulu made a documentary about all of these things. What would you say in regards to HR should have put a handle on that initially and just stopped it before those allegations even came out to that level of the public? Because when people are working for you and certain lines were crossed, someone is not feeling safe, someone is not feeling respected, don't you think that those things should be in place? HR should have already instilled those things in place to where this is what we do, XYZ. What are your thoughts towards when something like that happens to someone who's on such a huge global international level and is such a megastar, and then these basic principles that should have happened at the ground level were not handled?
Well, I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a great question, and it's a very critical question. And first of all, we're making the assumption that HR exists in the organization of that artist.
Very good.
That assumption. If someone is in place that actually is operating in the HR function, not only is HR should be helping in that aspect of, really communicating what sexual harassment looks like, what employment laws should you be very cognizant of. You also have to work with the client and educate them on the understanding that these are some things you should look out for. And then when you are a megastar, when you are on a certain trajectory, if you will, I don't know if the air gets thin up there and then you stop listening to everybody around you. I don't know. I've never been there. So I don't know if that is the case. But a lot of times when people are in the leader role, the boss role and everything, bosses and some leaders don't always listen to those of us who are in human resources. But we actually are the ones that do our best to actually keep you in business. So we're always, HR has always got a bad rep. Okay. We've always got a bad rep. That's why you have to have tough skin here. So, but that's assuming that that artist had those kind of people around her. And that's assuming that she allows herself to listen to someone that knows maybe something that she doesn't know. So it's important for HR and for that leader, let's look at it from a company standpoint. Yes. The leader or the CEO of that company, or somebody that represents the CEO in the E-suite or in the C-suite, I should say, I guess, in the C-suite, then they need to be working with HR to understand that sexual harassment, violating employment laws out of compliance is very, 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 very critical. And, those powers that be pay attention to that. They pay attention to that. So now you have sexual harassment cases or, alleged, sexual harassment charges against you and everything. So now you have to go through the process of someone accusing you of that, whether it's true or not, accusing you of that. But when you don't have those parameters in place and that training in place and that understanding in place, it can go amok.
Yes.
Depending on where you are, whether you're out here in the entertainment world, in regular organizational world, for-profit and non-profit, it doesn't matter. it's very important to understand those things. A lot of small businesses and mid-sized businesses too, they're growing, they're keeping their, they're trying to keep their clients happy, and, serve them properly, and great customer service and sales and marketing and whatever. But that people piece,
yes,
when it doesn't have the right guidelines and values and everything attached to it, what happens? You wind up in court. Or potentially wind up in court, or mitigation, mitigation and arbitration and things of that nature. So it can get very heavy. And a lot of times that's one thing that scares a growing business, because, HR is not HR is sexy. Let's get back to that. HR is sexy when you have the right person in your corner helping you understand what it is and how to incorporate it in your business properly. But you also have to have a listening ear. You have to have a listening ear, and get that counsel and get that counsel to really make a sound decision going forward, in how you treat your people, how you treat your business, how you treat your vendors, your clients. All the things come together and they work together. So
that's awesome. That's truly fantastic. Delmar, let's switch gears here, because now we are towards the end of 2023. We are about to start 2024, basically. With that in mind, for people that are trying to, January will be upon us soon, but people who are trying to, in the job market, right? The way that the industry has changed as far as getting a job, going through the hiring process and interviewing and finally landing that position. They were the good old days, and, old, but previously, people would submit an application, go in for an interview. Now, with the introduction of AI doing some of these screenings, what are some do's and don'ts that you would give our listening audience today?
If someone is searching, like in the career world, and they're searching for employment and everything, first of all, be honest on your resume.
Number one.
Yeah, number one, be honest on your resume. Now, it's all right to get support of AI to maybe flesh out your idea. Maybe you already have a resume and you want to, really tap into some key words that you may not even thought about. AI will help you do that. I've even done that to my resume, and I'm not even looking for a job. I just want to see the dynamics of AI attached to what I already had on my resume. And it pulled out some words that I didn't even think about. It's like, oh, I didn't even think about those words. So you want to use AI as a resource, not as the sole thing that pinpoints what you've done. So be honest on your resume. Be able to back up what you have on your resume. Be very confident in what you know. And that doesn't mean that you have to know everything, because nobody knows everything. But be confident about what you know based on the job that you are applying for. Look at that job ad. Look at some of those keywords that they're looking for. Look at some of the key things that you want to make sure that you have, even if you don't have all 100%. Some people, I've posted many jobs and I've hired many jobs. It can be for an operations manager, but someone that may be, I don't know, that may be a cook at the Waffle House, which, no shame. I mean, you're working and protecting and feeding your family. But I'm just talking about the dynamics of someone that you know that you're not particularly qualified right now. Maybe you're in school, maybe you're training or something while you're working, as a cook. But this person needs an operations manager that already has the skill set right now. So make sure that your skill set matches what that job ad is asking for, and the things that you've been able to do in your employee. And then also practice your interview style. Practice the interview questions. There are millions of practice interview questions on the good old internet, that you can pull from for that particular position. You can even Google something, what are some questions that I would be asked if I'm going after this operations manager job? What are some questions that I could be prepared for that they may be asking? And then the other part, besides, practicing for your interview and being more confident in that, Be able to talk about what you think are your strengths. What's your superpower? And then those areas that you're working on, which people may call weaknesses or areas of opportunity. Be able to actually convey an answer to those questions. And then also research the company in which you are applying for. Look for them on LinkedIn. Look at what they're doing, in the community. Are they giving back to the community in which they're taking from? So look at all those kind of things. Vet the company. Yeah. Right? Just if they're going to vet you, vet them. Because it's a two-way conversation.
It is.
Not a monologue in an interview. It's a two-way conversation. So as they vet you, be able to ask them questions about what are they doing? What are some of their challenges? And actually be aware of some of their challenges, because a lot of times you'll find it out on the internet, on their website, some of the things that they've some of the projects that they're working on or challenges that they've had and how they've been able to resolve it or how they're looking to resolve it. So be able to do those things. Don't just come on a Zoom interview or a live interview and not have done any kind of preparation. You want to have all that. Like saying, AI is huge everywhere, but use it as a tool to refine the resume that you have, and that will pull out the skill set that you actually do have. And the qualifications that you actually do have to make it a stronger resume, but don't make it your sole source, because the AI don't know what you've done. So you have to feed it the information in order to refine it for you. So use it as a tool. But those are some of the things I will give those that are out there, in the employment world right now, looking for an opportunity. And then sometimes you may have to think outside the box, really brainstorm about how else can you do it. Because the computer and AI will see your resume before a human being will. So how can you get a hold of them? Sometimes, search for them on LinkedIn. Sometimes send them a message. Let them know that you've sent your resume in. So you have to do things outside of what may have been done 10, 20 years ago. So I hope that
That's pure gold, Delmar. That is pure gold. I want to circle back because it really made an impact on me how at 17, you are so confident and knew HR is the thing for me. And you made your own path to HR and doing what you do today. What advice or what would you say to our listeners who someone is still in the corporate world but knows I got to do something else? I'm striving. I got to break free because you carved your own lane, literally. And thank God it's been sustainable for you. You've been successful at doing what you're doing. But that was not a field that was popular back in 2001. Or, that is something completely different that you've carved a lane for yourself. What would you say to someone who's still in corporate, but there's something that's pushing them, I got to do something else? You were so lucky that you, along the way, this brought you to the next thing, that brought you to the next thing. Yes, there are pits and valleys. We're not lying to anybody about that. But you kept pressing forward. In your journey, what would you say to someone who's just starting out and is ready to try this entrepreneur journey?
Okay. First of all, don't quit your job. Do not quit your job while you are exploring. All right. You still need to, you need to have a roof over your head, feed yourself and all those kind of things. So create a plan. That's what I would tell you. Create a plan. I didn't have a plan. I lost everything. I had to figure it out along the way. So the plan was not there. I took a leap. But if you're still employed, but you just know there's something else that you should be doing, you hadn't figured out, don't quit your job. That's my first part of the advice. And then second part is begin to have a plan. And can I give your audience an exercise that they can do on this? Quick exercise of how to actually begin to identify what it is that you want to do next. I'm a have all the technology all around me, right? Mac, computer, iPhone, all the things, but I'm still a pen and paper person. Okay. I came from that day and age, pen and paper person, but I'm going to give you a quick exercise. And I think this would be a great response to what you just asked me and can help your audience. I want you to, whether on your computer or pen and paper, and I want you to make 3 or 4 columns. The first column, I want you to identify all the job titles you've had, all the titles that you've had in your life and in your business. So I'm your executive admin, okay, operations manager, marketing person, whatever it is. And then I want you to put your personal titles too: mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, auntie. I'm all those titles that we've had as individuals in our life. The second column, I want you to identify what is it that you learned from being in all those titles, being in all those roles, being identified in all those roles. Put down everything that you've learned, all the skills that you've acquired, the things that you've been developed in. What does that look like? Negotiation skills, budgeting skills, management skills, all those things. And then in the third column, I want you to look at what position could those skills be transferred to. What position could those skills be transferred to? Because see, you're stuck in your head as maybe an executive admin. I'm just used to this as an example, executive admin. But you want to maybe be in leadership or some other particular role or something just inside of you can do if you want to go into entrepreneurship. But you first have to do the brain dump. Do the brain dump. And do it. And like I said, this is just one exercise. Okay, I put it on TikTok once, and I think I got like 10,000 views. It's like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. But yeah, you have to really be able to sit down and think about that. So all the titles that you've ever had in the first column, all the skills that you've acquired, that you've developed in those positions. As a mother, negotiation skills because you got kids that, get in a fight. You knew how to break that up. Okay, so, and then the third column is like, what job could those transferable skills be transferred to? And in the fourth column, identify the company you want to go work for. Identify the company or the kind of entrepreneur, business that you want. Put that in the fourth column. And that becomes your visual brain dump. That becomes your visual brain dump. And then you can begin to zone in. It's like, oh yeah, I do like doing that. Oh yeah, I don't like doing that. Yep, I like doing that, and that. Take that off. I don't want to do that. So when you begin to look at all those skill sets that you've acquired, because a lot of times we don't think that deep about our skill set. We just do it because we're on automatic.
Yes.
But when we're forced to do the visual brain dump, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't know I had learned all that. All this education, all these things that I've learned on this job I've been on for 10 years. It's like, oh, wow, I know how to do all of that. And what does that look like in the entrepreneurial world? And what does that look like maybe in a different career at a different company? So hopefully that helps.
Yes, it does. And you made it sound so simple, but there's something truly about mapping it out on paper and seeing it. That is gold. That is priceless. And I hope that people are encouraged to at least try that exercise because you'll really be able to see actionable steps you can take. Oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. That is really gold. Thank you for sharing that. Delmar, any last closing remarks before we end our conversation for today?
You know what? I wanted to give your audience a couple of free chapters of my book.
Please.
And then they'll be inclined to go buy the book. It's $20, guys, on Amazon. But they can get a free chapter. First, I think it's the first and second chapter. They're able to download for free. And it's at hrsexybook.com. hrsexybook.com. And, go get a free read.
Thank you. And again, Delmar can be found on her website at
hrbrainforhire.com, and then on social media under my name, Delmar Johnson. And, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm over there a lot.
Any other future projects you have coming up?
Well, I will tell you, I soft-launched a tech brand. I'm a co-founder of a tech brand called Expand HR. We're in pause mode right now. That's just being honest. We're in pause mode. But we did a soft launch in March, which was Women History Month. We did that on purpose. So we're looking to gear that back up and get that back on track. But that is an onboarding platform that we're building out, and then also being able to right now offer payroll services to small businesses. So it's called expandhr.co. Go check it out on the website so you can see some of the things that we're doing right now in 2024. We're really looking forward to it. But if you need payroll services right now, we're actually doing payroll services as part of that, as part of our tech workflow, if you will, as part of our tech plan.
Fantastic. Delmar, we cannot close this conversation without you talking a little bit more about your second book that you have as well.
Well, you know what? My second book was actually my first book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah, because I don't think I said that to you. But Seasons of My Soul was my memoir, and I wrote that in 2014. So that actually chronicles who I am, and some of the parts of my journey. And I put my life journey, like the 12 years that I didn't live around my family. I put that in there, and then talked about a little bit about my caregiving journey. So it's a memoir about me, to let you know a little bit more about who I am now. That was 2014 me. 2023 me is a little different, but that's still part of me because it's part of my journey. So it gives you an insight on that. So that was my first book. HR is Sexy was my second book. And then I'm the co-author of like 3 or 4 other books. But those were my solo books.
Ladies and gentlemen, Delmar Johnson, thank you so much. It was an absolute joy speaking with you today. Thank you.
You're listening to Empress Conversations podcast with your host, Maggie Peary. Conversations with Maggie. Join us next time on the next episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. To learn more about guests or for more information on working with Maggie, go to www.empressconversationswithmaggie.com/get-started.